Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Bhalava Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Rajana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Rajana Namuna Jira Manachari Jira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Bhalava Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Rajana Namuna Jira Manachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, Hare Krishna. Originally we were going to read from Srimad-bhagavatam about Lord Ramacandra, but this is also a very important day for us here. It was the installation day of our Gauranitai deities, the large Gauranitai deities.
Dharma Prabhu ki jai.
So Um, see, where do we start the history here? Actually, before Gornatai were here, the deities that are here now, are Gornatai deities. They were the first. Of the deities, Hare Krishna, better. Of the deities that are worshiping now, our Gornatai deities were the first. But actually, previously in Miami Temple, when I first came, there were some small Jagannath deities, which nobody knows about these days. But that was when I was first sent to the Miami Temple to help become a pujari, and at that time the deities were none of these deities. They were small Jagannath deities. Those and due to the assault. It'll have to be over here a little more. So anyway, there's these small Jagannath deities, and there were things going on in the temple I wasn't aware of at the time. But most of the pujaris, including the temple president, all within 2 months, about nine devotees were gone, including all the Brahmin initiated devotees. So, except for me. So someone came in to be a temporary temple president, but he said he'd given the instruction that the previous one said that we had to take the deities off the altar because we didn't have enough pujaris. And I said that I'll take care of them myself if there's no one else. And he said, no, you must follow the previous temple president. So that the deities those Jagannath deities were taken off the altar. And for some couple of years, we were worshiping just a picture of Panchatattva. That doesn't block the sun. A little bit, yeah. So, in any case, at that time, those deities were taken off the altar and we were worshiping Panchatattva. Then after some time, maybe a year later or so, with a new temple president, that was my godbrother Aviram. He was temple president for a year or so, and when he was here, when he came to the temple, he arranged for to have these deities made, large Gornatai deities. He had them made specifically for us, and so those deities were made. And I don't know when he first made the arrangements, but I do remember that when they arrived in the Miami airport, they actually arrived on Lord Nityananda's appearance day that year. It was 1974. So they arrived in the airport on Lord Nityananda's appearance day. We were right in the middle of a festival going on, and some of us, including me, went out to the Miami airport to bring those deities back to the temple. So we were thinking, okay, this is good. In one month, we were thinking we would on Lord Chaitanya's appearance day. We were planning, okay, we'll get everything together and we'll do the deity installation then. But to do all the preparations for making new clothes and many things you have to do before the deities are installed, there was a lot to do, too much to do. So Lord Chaitanya's appearance day was not possible for installation. So it was extended to Lord Ramachandra's appearance day. So the deity installation was done on Lord Ramachandra's appearance day, and which was on April 1st that year. It was on April 1st that year. Srila Prabhupada wasn't personally there to do the installation, but he sent someone. There was at that time it was Kirtanananda Swami, who was in good standing at that time in ISKCON. So he was sent, and he performed the ceremony. Our ceremony was simple. Of course, for me it was pretty complicated, but I was also only very, very new in the movement. It just got I was waiting on my second initiation, but it was new as far as deity worship goes. So, but the installation was usually if you want to do a really elaborate deity installation, you do the installation with many different ingredients for bathing and all that. In our particular installation, the substance that we were bathing with, it was a mixture of milk and yogurt mixed together, and then our deities, according to Tai, they were put in because these are the big Gornitai, so we put them in these plastic. I'm sure they're wash bins or something. They're made of plastic. Try to make them a little bit nicer by covering them with aluminum foil. and the deities were in them. And then the bathing part of the installation was just taking a ladle like we have in the kitchen, scooping that and pouring on top of the deities like that, and then pouring the milk and yogurt mixture on top of our deities, and of course there was a fire sacrifice. It was basically the same basic fire sacrifice. We have our fire sacrifices. We took actually from the Srila Prabhupada had given some instructions one time. It was actually for Krishna conscious marriages, but the fire sacrifice was the same. It was in a book that was called what was it called? I don't know what it was called. Anyway, it was like a handbook that we had back then. And so the fire sacrifice was done there. It's very similar to what we do now, at least what I was doing. I was doing fire sacrifices. I think the fire sacrifice was actually performed by the Kirtanananda Swami. The fire, and then at the end of the fire, at the end of the big kirtan, we had a lot of devotees in the temple at that time. In a small temple room, was maybe twice the size of our deity kitchen, I think, maybe at that time. So we had a lot of devotees there, big kirtan. And then Abhiram Prabhu, temple president, he was asked to do the first arti for the deities. This is after the deities were put back after the bathing, and they're put on the altar. Then we dressed the deities. I wasn't actually dressing the deities, but I was there at the time. And the deities were put on the altar. They were dressed, and everything was prepared not very nicely. It was a small altar. Maybe because it was just for Gornitai. Somewhere we have a picture, not of the installation day, but with the deities on that altar, one of the early pictures. So we put the deities on the altar, addressed them, decorated the altar very nicely, and then the temple president at that time did the first arati ceremony. So that was I don't remember a whole lot of details other than that, as far as the actual day and time of the installation. But it was like a very important point in time for the Miami temple, because we were once again engaging in like regular deity service. I mean, deity service meaning dressing the deities, bathing the deities, and so on like that. We started that at that time. And our standard was actually not bad. I think we were keeping pretty good standard as far as what we knew how to do in those days. Our kitchen at that time was, I don't remember, we were in so many different places there. Actually, I don't remember all the details now. But in any case, that was the basic installation for our deities. So our devotees were there, and it was a very nice situation. And of course, installation is just a ceremony to asking the Lord to come and appear. But the real challenge, of course, is after so many years, over the years, to make sure that standard of deity worship continues, right? And then you have to be very serious about that, and especially because previously, as mentioning the small Jagannath deities, it was not done well. It was the installation was done, the deities were there, deities were being worshipped, and then 8 out of 9 of the Brahmin-initiated devotees who were in the temple all disappeared within, they went here and there over a period of about a month or two, and then they were told to take the deities off the altar. I didn't agree with it, but I was only like a year in the movement at the time, maybe a little more than a year, and someone comes and says the temple president, the outgoing temple president, said, "We must take the deities off the altar because we don't have enough devotees to take care." And I said, I will take care of myself. I'll take care of those deities myself. If there's no one else here, I'm here and I'll take care. But they wouldn't allow that because they were afraid I'd burn out and just go away. But I was willing to do it, and of course, I stayed here. I continued to serve the deities with many other devotees now. So that was the situation. But because we had gone through that, we were very, especially determined that this is not going to happen again. The installed deities, and then something happens and say, "Oh, it's just gotten difficult," So now we have to take the deities off the altar, stop worshiping them. You cannot deity worship. You cannot do like that. Just like in India, there are big temples where the deities have been worshipped for hundreds of years, sometimes even thousands of years in certain places. So ISKCON is relatively new compared to the ancient temples of India, but the general principle is there that once deities are installed, somehow or other that worship is supposed to go on continuously forever, at least until, we'll see, Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement will go on. at least in the golden era, which our temples should stay, at least next 10,000 years, our temples should be kept intact. I'm not sure what will happen after that because it'll become pretty nasty in the material world. But that'll be a while. So yes, the installation means that it's a formal agreement between the devotees and the Lord that from this point on we will continue to worship you, and we're supposed to not reduce the standard at all. We can increase, but we're not supposed to ever reduce. And in some ways we haven't really maintained, that. In some ways we haven't completely maintained the way at our highest standard. But we have a record of those kind of basic standards. It's in a deity worship book that we have back in the Pujari room. I was asked by Jayananda, right, Jayananda, who's is or was at least our minister of deity worship in North America. Things have changed around a little bit. I was asked by him to write down in a book the standards of what our best original standards were in certain ways, offerings and artiques and bathing the deities and so on. What our original standards were, what our current standards were, and what our original standards were, what our best standards were, and then what our current standard is, because we have to at least maintain what we had. In some ways, our standards have not been maintained. We need more devotees to keep up with things. That's not very good that we don't maintain, but we do know what our standards were. And this was all agreed upon from back in the time of the installation of the deities. So from back then, we had, just like our Mongol Arctic suites were, we had seven kinds of sweets. We have 3 right now, but we had 7 kinds of sweets we were offering for our deities. And that was steady, at least for a couple of years at that time before the deities were installed. Just back when the small Jagannath deities were installed, we already had that standard. So we maintained like that, and we had, and then of course our standard, and over the years, of course, as this happened, more and more deities have come. So this is our Gornitai deities were the first. Since I was here, they were the first deities. And then after some time, in the same place, the small Gornitai began. Well, actually, small Gornitai came over after that in another place. The original, the temple was on Kumquat Street, or Kumquat Avenue. I think it was called Street, Kumquat Street, at the time of the installation of our big Gornitai deities. And then I don't know if I think we were leasing that place. It was a nice property. It was the same place that Srila Prabhupada visited when he came to the Miami Temple. That was the next year after the installation. So that was there, and then later, for some reason, I had nothing to do with management. I wasn't up to date with everything that was going on. But at one point, we moved, and we moved to another place that was actually there's so many moves. Let's see. Well, okay, Mary's. When I first came, okay, so talking about installation. When I first came to the Miami temple, our first location was actually a block over, Mary Street, or Virginia Street here, and it's one block that way is Virginia. I mean, it's Mary Street. It was a church, like a one-room church. So that was where that's where the Jagannath deities were, and then some arrangements were made, and they were moved downtown for a short time to Northwest 4th Street, somewhere downtown. That was also a church building, a bigger one. But we're only there for a couple of months. But when all those devotees left, moved to other places, then we didn't have a congregation. Everything was like sanctuary. So when all those devotees moved out, then we couldn't keep up with the payments. So, I guess maybe it was, I'm not sure. I guess we were renting it. We couldn't maintain that. So the deities. Well, actually, our Jagannath, the small Jagannath deities were at that time were taken off the altar and stopped worshiping them. We worshiped Panchatattva, and then we were moved. Then we had to move back to one house that someone there owned on Center Street. So Center Street is nearby too. It was a block away from Mary Street, and then our worship of Panchatattva was going on there. Whatever devotees there were basically all were there at that location, and then that's when Abhiram, the godbrother Abhiram, became temple president, and he arranged this other place to move to, and that's where our deities were installed. That was Kumquat Avenue, Kumquat. And then we were there for about 2 years, and then for some reason we moved to another place. I don't recall the name of the place. It was a nice piece of land. Before we had pictures of that property on the bulletin board. It's been moved around since then. And then once we were there, that was. Anyway, Bornatai had come, and then gradually we were under another temple president. We were moved to Miami Beach, into an old hotel. Yeah. So anyway, that was the installation, information. Any questions? Comments? Can't hear. Miami Beach, how long were we there? About 9 or 10 years. Yeah, this is about 1980 to about 89. Yeah. Must have been towards the end of 88. Must have been towards the end of 88, I think. And then, because we were here, because we moved here after a year, and that was 89. We first came here. Yes. Here we were 89. There was about a year when we left, when we had to leave the Miami Beach temple, then we didn't really have a proper temple to move into, but we had sold the building there. We sold the building. It was a situation, either you sell it or you lose it. So we sold it, and then we were temporarily in a smaller place. Brahmacharis had their own separate house. Maharajas were in the building with the house where the deities were, and like that. And that service continued on there for about a year. And then while trying to find a proper new place, and that proper new place was this one. And when the first time the devotees came through here, and this property here was for sale, and it used to be a Baptist church, and the person who was trying to directly sell it was the minister for that church. He was trying to do it without real estate people, and when he saw the Hare Krishnas approach him, wanting to ask him about selling, there was no way he was going to sell his church to the Hare Krishna temple. There's no way. So he gave a really high price, and then, but after some time later, maybe a year later, or sometime in 1989, then he had already given up trying to personally sell it. He gave up trying to sell it himself. He turned it over to a real estate company, and real estate people are not. There's probably not a big market for churches, so they were just trying to get rid of it. So we approached that person, and we were able to get the property at the time for $800,000, which is in today's market that's really cheap. And we had money from the sale of the previous place, which was set aside. It was never spent. It was held just for the purchase of a new place. So they put down a down payment of $600,000 and mortgaged the rest of it. And anyway, we're here. And there should be some pictures around that showed all the renovations and things that were being done here. It used to be on the bulletin board too. There's pictures for all that. And like that. But while we were in Miami Beach, and expecting we were going to stay there, a lot of Richard Bihari were installed. Jagannath Balaram Subhadra were installed, and our small Radha Krishna, Radha Damodar, those were actually our deities at home. So we brought them. We were bringing them for festivals, and one time they just stayed here and continued the worship here. And when the Sringadev, the larger Nrsingadev deity, when he first came here, I arranged for that deity to be made by some devotee I know in India, in Vrindavan, and but we were never ready to. I didn't think we were ready to to install another deity, because it was always a struggle. So, but anyway, somebody else came as temple president, and the deity was installed separately, and he's on the altar for so many years. So where Sringadev appeared here, Radha Damodar appeared here. Radha Vajrabihari and Jagannath Subhadra appeared in Miami Beach, like that. Anyway, it's a little bit of our history of deities and deity installations and so on. Okay, I think there's a lot to do today, so maybe we'll end unless there's anyone's got any questions. No. So I think we'll end for now. Prepare for the rest of the festival for the rest of the day. Srila Prabhupada